This tutorial was requested by a user named Loki. We will be seeing step by step how we can create this terrain with a road that adapts to the terrain, and everything is procedural. This is a curve, and there's an array to create a road, and we will also be seeing how to create the animation. And okay, so let's get to it. The first thing I will remove the light, create a plane. I will scale it maybe 20 times. Apply the scale. I'm activating this so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is subdivide this. We can change this to 100 to start. We will go to Sculpting. I will change this because I don't like this color. And I'll activate the statistics here. I'm using 2.92 alpha, but you can follow in the 2.91. With the clay brush, with F, you can change the size. And you have the strength here. It's too strong when you try. Make sure you have the topo off, and you can create some sort of terrain. Let's go back to layout. Go to top view with 7 on the numpad, and we will create a curve. Nerves, it's the easiest way to create more like natural curves. If you go to viewport shading wireframe, or press Z on your keyboard and change to wireframe here, we will be able to see the curve. We go to edit mode with tab, and we will create the shape of the road with this. We can pick a vertex here and use the E to extrude, as you do with normal objects with a normal vertex. Extrude. As you can see, it will start generating a path. I'm doing this from the top view because if we are in orthographic view, everything on the z-axis is at the same distance, and we cannot, for example, if I move this around, I could never change the height or the z value for it. I will show you, for example, if everything I did here, if I go to side view, it's everything plain. But if I go to Z and move it a bit like this and start moving this vertices, and I go to side view, you have this. So orthographic view won't let you change in the direction you are looking. If you are in side view, you won't be able to, in this case, change the X value for any of the vertices. Okay, so now we will finish this. So we have our path now. exit edit mode, and we will use G to grab, Z to lock the movement on Z-axis, and put it above the terrain there. What we will do is to add a shrink wrap modifier. We will select our plane as the target, and I will explain a few things about this. We will change this from near surface point to project, Z-axis, negative and positive activated. When we are using the modifier, the shrink wrap modifier on a curve, it affects the, as you see, the path. Okay, but when we apply this, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but it affects not the resulting curve, but the vertices or the handle points or whatever. That's why, as you can see, everything is a bit different when we apply this. So we'll go back and we will try to have everything inside, because what's happening here is this is outside, and when I apply this, it remains at the same place, and it's not what we want. So before we apply, we will check that we have everything inside the limits of the plane. This is not necessary here, but we will do it anyway. And this will hit here. That's why it will stay a bit over the shape of the plane. But since we are going to also adapt the terrain to the path, that's something that it will be fixed later. So don't worry, just apply this. It will remain a bit different, but don't worry. We go to top view again, and we will create a plane. This time this will be like the terrain where the road will be later. So it must be a bit more, a bit bigger, because or wider, because then we will put the road on top of it. So this one, we can keep this one at maybe 2 meters, it's fine. And to add more like resolution to this, we will scale it on the x-axis. This will Control A, sorry, to apply this scale. And now we will use an array modifier and curve modifier. On the curve, we will use our NURBS curve. You can see that it's placed on the beginning of the curve. For example, if you want to change the direction and want it here, as you can see, you have a direction on the curve that it's represented with this. You select, we are in edit mode. With A, we select everything, right click, and you have a switch direction here, or press D, as you can see, and it changes direction. I'm going to use it as it was, so just explaining how this works. And I will select everything, right click, switch direction, and that's it. As you can see, there's a difference in height here. That's because we didn't, when we changed when we moved the curve up, we didn't apply the location. So if we just Control A, apply location to the curve, you will have the road at the start, or the terrain at the start. Okay, next step, we select this again. You could change this manually if you want, but you can also, for example, use fit curve and choose the curve, and it will add as many as needed to fill it. As you can see, this is using the curvature of the rotation of this curve. What we are going to do is to select again the NURBS curve, go here to edit the properties, and when it's where it says twist method, we choose Z up. That way it will keep looking up through the entire curve. We will select this terrain. We will add another shrink wrap modifier. We will select, then I will change this name because it will be easier to understand, to, I don't know, road 01. And now we go back here, select road 01. Don't worry, this is expected. We change this to project, change to Z, negative and positive. What you see here is just because of the resolution of this, the amount of geometry that we have on the plane. You can make it more dense if you want this to be smoother, but we are going to also deal with that in a moment. So go to top view. We will add a second plane. This time we'll do it a bit scale X. This is fine if we do it like this, but we will do it a bit less wider than the other one, so it sits on top, and scale Y just a bit. For this one we will Control A, apply scale. We will go to shading, and we will go to top view. If you press the slash bar on the numpad, you will isolate the object. Here we will create the first material. I will do this, as I said, very basic, so we can keep the tutorial short. Texture coordinates, we will use the UV coordinate because that gives us 0 to 1 and 0 to 1 and will be easy to use. First, we will separate. In this case, I will tell you, if you didn't watch my procedural tutorials, procedural texture tutorials, I won't go through every detail because I won't repeat everything again. But I will explain what I'm doing. But if you don't understand, you can go back to that, and there's a lot of tutorials explaining, especially the fundamentals of procedural textures. I will leave a link on the description. Okay, so we go from UV, separate. Now we have X and Y. to work with, x and y, going from 0 to 1 value. So first thing, we will use mostly the y to create the lines of the road. I will use, as I said, something simple. I will use compare. That means that everything that it's at this point of the scale and has this tolerance or epsilon will be white, and the rest will be black. So we are at 0.5 of the scale, and we have a margin or epsilon or tolerance of 0.06. That's why you see this. So this will be the size of our lines. We can use a value node to change this. I will set to 0.02 and I will plug it here. Now I will move this to, say, this is like the limit of the row, and I will use another one, same axis, but this time I will use another value just for learning purposes. 0.060. So I can change the position here, and I will use, in this case, subtract from 1 this value. That means I'm here and I'm subtracting this value, so it will be like mirroring the line, and this will change the location for the compare here, and we will use the same value to change the width or the size of the line. And we have to combine these two. You can do it in many ways. You can use add. That means we have 1 here, and 0 on the rest. If we add them, we have 1 here, and 0 on the rest. You can also use maximum. It's like the maximum value of both nodes will be the result. And this is useful in cases when they intersect. For example, if you have, sorry, that's fine. There, if you use add here, you will see where they overlap. You have a value of 2. But if you use maximum, the maximum value for anything here is 1. So that said, okay, so now we will add the line of the middle of the road. For that, we will use again a compare. This one will be in the middle, 0.5. It will have the same size, and we will use now another compare for the x-axis. No, not a compare, sorry. What we have to do is to, since this is a dashed line, we will have to take, subtract or somehow mask the part we want. And we do that with greater than, in this case. And I will use 0.66. This will give me like a third of the road will be covered with the dash. And what we have to do here is to mix these two. We will use multiply. That means if I multiply this by only the parts, the positive values that land on the 1 will be visible. The ones that land on 0 will be multiplied by 0, and it won't. They will remain black. So when we do this, we only see the part of this line that intersects with this one, and that's what we want. Now we can use maximum again and both, and we have our road there. And we can control the size of the lines and where are these limits, just to learn a bit of procedural stuff. Okay, so now what we do is use a mix RGB node to add color to it. We use this as the factor. Factor on a mix blending mode will make everything that it's when we have the factor on 0, it will use this color. We will make an example here, and as we move to 1, it will mix this other color until, in this case, it's using 100% of this color and nothing from this one. So, but this is if everything has the same value. We can also use, in this case, this that has different values for different regions. So in this place here, it's 1, completely 1, so it will use the color of the second input. And where it's black, it's 0, so it will use the color that is here. So if we plug this here, you will see that we have this, and we can now control the color of the road. I will make it some sort of gray, and the line will be white. Of course, you can do this with textures or whatever, but I'm going to keep it simple for now. You can plug this. If we use this directly here, it won't be affected by light because we are not using a shader, so it will remain exactly as it is no matter what light you add. But I don't know, I'm using, if you plug it here, now it's affected by the light of the scene. Okay, so now we can exit the local mode here, go back to layout, see, we can use material preview, and we will use this new plane. We will call it road texture. Then we will add another array modifier, change this to curve, nerves. As you can see, we have we will use merge. That means that every step of the array will be merged. As you can see, there are these repetitions. If you use merge, they will become joined, and if you have a curve, that's important. Otherwise, it will behave like different objects. And now we will add a curve modifier again. Select our nerves. We can use also a displace modifier to move it up a bit. you change the how much it is, just a tiny bit to avoid this. And also you can change this to shade smooth to get rid of that thing. And you have your road there. Now it's the moment when you can save a copy of everything here in case you want to change the road later. Select everything you want to backup, shift duplicate, M to move it to a new collection, backup. Okay, and then you can just hide it from renders, whatever, this doesn't exist. Okay, so now you can play a bit with the curve. As you can see, everything adapts. You can make even select a segment, select a segment and subdivide. You have a new segment here, grab, and well, you can move and change everything as you want. Once you are happy with the shape of your road, you can apply this modifier on the terrain and go back to sculpting. You have a few options. You can use Din Topo that will generate new faces as you use the brushes. Set this to around 4. And as you can see, you can add geometry around the road. This is easier if you are not used to sculpt, because then you just, this is the smooth modifier, the smooth brush. You can lower a bit the strength. Change a bit this. You can also use the clay brush to with the topo activator. If you just press the left mouse button, you will like add clay to the region, and with shift you will use the smooth brush by holding shift, so you can do something like that. And this way you can adjust everything you want around the road that looks a bit low poly. At the end, we will exit and use shade smooth again. So go ahead, and it may take a bit of practice to, if you're not used to use sculpting. And also you can use it to like make the snow go on top of the road like this. Remember to have Tin Topo active. That will, as you can see, this was quite low in resolution, and this is better. This is, of course, you can do as you want. If you want something low poly, or we want to change it in another way, or you want to use subdivision, change whatever. No, I'm just showing a way to do it. So all I'm using here is the clay brush and holding shift to smooth a bit what I do. It also pushes a bit. Now here I will use again, remember every time you use sculpting you have to shade smooth again. The plane we used to create the first road, we can hide it now, this one, as you can see, and hide it from the render also. And now what we are missing is the camera. So how we create this animation that goes through all the path. All we have to do is select the camera, go to constraint properties, and add a follow path constraint. Select here the north curve. I have a copy because we did a backup. And as you can see, it's already starting to work. What happening here is that the camera has a position and we have to reset this to everything to 0. You can, for example, use Alt G will reset the location. Alt R will reset the rotation. So the camera is by default point down. That's the default position. So what we are going to do is to, in this case, use also follow curve that will align it to the curve, but still pointing down. And now we only have to rotate on the x-axis. Okay, now it's a good idea to press 0 on the numpad and go to the camera. We can move it on the z-axis a bit to start seeing the road. And this is up to you. You can change the angle. Also you can change a bit the focal length. And to animate this, we can go to the constraint properties, and you can animate path will generate an F-curve animation automatically. If you press here, you will see that you have the animation already. I think I will with a bit more up and rotate a bit down. That way we can see better the road. My speed is a bit too fast, I think. So what we can do is go to our curve, select here, and you will see the path animation here. And this is the amount of frames that uses for the animation. So instead of 100, I will set it to 250, for example. Now the speed is better. And the last thing I wanted to maybe to do, I will use a sun lamp here. You can change the amount, the strength there. And also I wanted to create a basic sky for this, also procedural. So you go to shading, camera view, please make sure you are in render view, go to world And we are going to make something super simple. Texture coordinates, we use noise texture, we'll use generated, and we will use a mix shader, no, mix RGB, sorry, and white and some sort of gray, plug this into the color. And as you can see, you have some sort of cloudy sky. You could use a ramp here maybe to push a bit. Okay, anyway, now our road trip is ready. So I hope you liked the tutorial and see you in the next video.